Well, a few years ago, I was a student at university in Birmingham, and I had the privilege to share a house with two really cool and great guys who became good friends. The one evening, it was a Friday night, we were hanging out in the house. We'd been partying all day like students generally do, and I turned to my friend John. I said, "You know what, John? I didn't grow up like this. I didn't grow up on Friday nights partying and doing what we do. My upbringing was very different. My parents were Sabbath keepers, and Saturdays were very different." John just kind of looked at me with eyes wide open and said, "Your parents were Sabbath keepers?" I kind of felt a little strange and embarrassed. Says, "Yeah, you know what that is?" "Yeah, sure, man. My parents are Sabbath keepers too. I also grew up as a Sabbath keeper." And we had this dialogue and realized we had one thing in common. We'd both sort of rejected the concept of Sabbath because we really didn't understand what Sabbath meant. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, because still in that room was our other friend Jay, who was lying flat out on a sofa just like this. And we said, "Jay, how about your parents? Were they Sabbath keepers too?" And Jay said, "No, my father was a musician." And we sort of laughed, because whose father's a musician? I don't know. I've never met somebody whose father was a musician. I says, "Anybody we know? Anybody famous?" And Jay turned around and said, "My father was the lead guitarist in the rock band Black Sabbath." I mean, what are the chances of that? What are the chances of living with a guy who, like me, was a Sabbath keeper, and my other roommate whose father was the lead guitarist of Black Sabbath, the biggest rock and roll band perhaps of all time? So there we are. And as John and myself got to know each other more over the next 3 years of university, we realized that we really never understood the concept of Sabbath. We saw it as just an exercise in rule keeping. And then we realized the beauty of what Sabbath really means. A day of rest, no study, no party, no TV, just rest. And I seriously believe that that discovery that John and I found is what got us through university. It gave us that day where we could just down tools and relax. And I've been doing it ever since. I'm Andrew, and I'm really happy to be sitting on the Sabbath sofa.